What's going on, all you Maxine Minx enthusiasts out there? Your two favorite horror hounds are back tonight, and we're talking about Ty West's third film in the X trilogy. It stars Mia Goth as Maxine herself. We're talking about Maxine.
Maxine!
Maxine!
Maxine! Maxine!
Maxine! Maxine!
You're a fucking movie star.
That's right. These two wild hound dogs are back for Cinephellas, just checking out one of our most anticipated films of the year. Of course, we're talking about the third installment in Uncle Wes trilogy here. Of course, we're talking about Maxine, that takes place in the 80s, our favorite decade for movies and music, and they really dive into some great music and fashion in this film. Of course, picking up with the character of Maxine Minx. This takes place 6 years after the last film of X, and she shows up in Hollywood. She's trying to be a famous actress, and she'll do whatever it takes to gain that success.
Yes, she will, won't she? She's determined to be a star. And since she's been a little girl, it's been that way, with her father. We see the little clips of him in the beginning on video, talking to young Maxine and talking about, don't settle for less, basically, go for the stars. And that's what Maxine's, set her mind to since the beginning. And, Maxine started out in the adult film industry, of course, as we saw with X. And here we are in Maxine, following the events that happened in X, the porn star massacre, as we saw it named in little, newspaper clippings and the headlines in this film here. We know that it was called that. So, yeah, she's moving on and she's taking over Hollywood in this one. She wants to be a big star. We see her sit down and, for going out for a part in a movie. And, they ask her some questions and she delivers a pretty awesome performance there right off the bat. And, you can tell the casting people were blown away by it. And of course, they end up hiring her. They also tell her to take off her clothes so they can see her boobs. That was just the 80s. That was one of the they had to fill out the criteria back then. You had to show your breasts on film. And of course, Maxine does that. And she's thrust into this world here. She's been working as a stripper, I believe, at night. So she has some friends there. This is also around the time when the Night Stalker was going around and killing people. And, both of us, of course, are familiar with the Night Stalker. We both watched the Netflix documentary on the Night Stalker. So you can just imagine, the feeling of the citizens on the street, like not knowing where he was and he could literally be right next to you. It's just that feeling and being there at that time. And that plays heavily into this film as there's murders happening all around Maxine and she's being followed.
I like the whole Night Stalker backdrop to this movie. Obviously, it was part of history in the 80s. He was a serial killer making his way around LA. And of course, back then didn't have the technology as we have now. And, taking out people left and right. Of course, women too, especially being, late at night. You didn't want to be out and about, walk around. Until you have Maxine in town, and we know that she's not scared of anything. So she's like the one woman at night walking down dark alleys, and you're like, oh no, is the Night Stalker going to come out and she's going to kill him, or is she the Night Stalker? So I had, a few questions how they're going to go about that. So it was pretty interesting throwing in the Night Stalker. And then you throw in the character Kevin Bacon plays, a PI, private investigator, trying to track down Maxine for dead bodies piling up in Texas. So he's on her track. Kevin Bacon's character is hired by this unknown, powerful man with a lot of money and can basically make or break, Maxine's career. And those are two things that Maxine had to keep an eye out for in this film. It was cool how they kind of set that up. And of course, throw into the backdrop of in Hollywood, like movie sets, going Hollywood sign behind me, was a big part of this movie. It was like another character, which I really appreciated.
Me too. We both love the 80s, of course, and this movie is like pure 80s. And I love the film work from Ty West in this movie. You get some really gorgeous shots and, like we had talked about too, going with following along with Maxine as she goes on the back lot at Universal and goes to the Bates Motel and you see that and all those shots, and we remember being there too. So we've walked into that area there, and you could see all, where they film all the interiors and the exterior shots of, like, saloons for westerns and old shops and stuff. They have that section there where they shoot movies, and you see all that, and that comes into play in this movie. So very much feels like a movie for movie lovers too, if you like all that behind the scenes stuff like we do. But this, with the X trilogy, Ty West does not shy away from gore, and we get some glorious gore all around in Maxine. It delivers in all aspects, and it's really well done. It's not just in your face, like over the top. It's always well done and always makes you grit your teeth, especially the early scene, like you mentioned, involving a stiletto.
Kicked him right in the nads, didn't she?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
That was gruesome. I was in my seat at the theater. I'm like, ooh, I could feel that. I'm like, ooh, like Patrick
Right.
Bateman, ooh, watching that scene.
Yes.
But yes, they're not shy on the gruesome gore and blood in this movie. There's a lot of great practical effects in this movie, gruesome kill scenes, and that's what you want from a movie like this. Of course, with Maxine being a psychopath as well, you're going to see some awesome shots in this movie. I love the cinematography and the directing of this movie, especially on the big screen. I thought some really great big shots of Hollywood and LA. I thought was taking me back there. I remember we did the Universal, backlot tour together. Seeing Bates Motel in person is really cool. Seeing this and that in the film because we're huge fans of Psycho. But throwing that all in this movie, it is made for movie junkies like ourselves here.
This for me delivered. I had read some reviews before this and totally didn't agree with them. They said it was a letdown. It was opposite for me. I was having a blast in the theater. Perfect pace. Seeing Kevin Bacon as the sleazeball, going against type. He doesn't play these characters often. I thought he did a great job in this. Typical sleazeball 80s private investigator here. You have Giancarlo Esposito playing, Teddy, the agent, glorious hairpiece, and, an agent, much like super agents back in the day, and now willing to do whatever they can to help their star because that's going to mean they're going to be raking in a lot of cash. And, he delivers for Maxine in this movie too. He really does come to her rescue and helps her figure thing out as she's being, threatened by Kevin Bacon's character. And you find out that there's somebody behind the scenes pulling the strings, and we're not going to spoil anything, but it's very interesting how things ended up. And, you find out about the murders, and everything ties together from X, and, even the aspects we saw with Pearl. It all ties together in this film, and this seemingly final film in this franchise. At least it ties up the trilogy. But like we were talking about before, we hope to see this keep going. Because Mia Goth, it's really about Mia here. She just owns this character. She's cemented her status as Scream Queen. She's the Scream Queen great from our time now. There's a few others, but I'd say with this trilogy, she's really established herself here, and would love to see her, in this role again. And there's room for her to grow from where this ends up too. We'll say that. So I don't think we've seen the last of Maxine. In some form or another, she's going to be back.
I would love to see her in the '90s, like the sitcom era, Full House, and all that with the mom jeans. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see 6 more of these movies. I meant Mia Goth is worth the admission to the theater alone. Like she is incredible in this role. She gets better and better, I think. Pearl, she was scary good. And X, she was great. But this is just probably one of the best performances from her, and definitely worth going to see in the big screen because it's beautiful backdrop. I love all the music in this, of course, 80s music being my favorite. It just really sets a cool vibe and eerie vibe to this movie, with the Night Stalker and everything going on with Maxine's character. And I loved all the supporting cast. One we didn't talk about was Elizabeth Debicki's character. She played Elizabeth Bender, the director. She was kind of a perfectionist, hard ass director that was working with Maxine to get her on this horror movie, which is really cool. And then Lily Collins had a small part, and Halsey was that singer, had a smaller part too. She was one of the strippers. So there's, the supporting cast in this movie, as you said, Giancarlo Esposito with the hairpiece was really fantastic. Just a really great new cast. And I thought Kevin Bacon has been killing it this year. He was just in Beverly Hills Cop as a bad guy, and this one he's a sleazeball PI. Very pleased across the board with this movie. I think the villain was probably the most predictable part of the movie, but it just, not a major issue with me. I thought everything else was really fantastic. I don't get the hate for this movie. I had a blast with this at the movie theater from start to finish. Really, no complaints, minus the villain reveal at the end. And I would love to see them do this for another 3 to 6 movies. Sign me up for it. I love Mia Goth and this character. I definitely go see Maxine in theaters as soon as possible. So that being said, I'm going to give Maxine, currently playing in theaters everywhere, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 Maxine hair pieces.
We didn't mention Uncle Bobby Cannavale and Michelle
yeah.
Monaghan as like the predictable cops, terrible detectives. They weren't very good at their jobs, up until the end. They finally showed up when things counted. But that was more of the writing. It was just they're just kind of cookie cutter characters there. That was only a slight like negative for me, but definitely not enough to take away from the movie or the experience or anything. This was awesome. Love the backdrop of the 80s and love what Ty did with this trilogy. Can't wait to see what he does from here. Would like to, see him take on something else now, see what else he comes up with, because he is a talented dude and he's proved it from these 3 films here. And hope he works with Mia again, of course, if it isn't with Maxine, if something else, these two work well together. He really put her on the map and gave her a chance. And, obviously she took it and ran with it. So with that being said, I had a great time with Maxine too. Everybody should go see it. It made pretty good money at the box office. It made more than X and Pearl did in their box office in their first week. So it's already profitable. So good news all around. So with that being said, I too am going to give Maxine a 4 out of 5 John Labatt hair pieces.
Michelle Monaghan and Bobby Cannavale were so good, I forgot they were in the movie. They're right for like 5 minutes and completely useless roles as cops. Cannavale was an aspiring actor. How was my scene? Michelle Monaghan's like, it was terrible. So I want to hear from all you 80s enthusiasts out there. What did you like about Maxine? What didn't you like about it? What's your favorite flick in the trilogy? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out these mass assailants on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and our website, Cinephellas.com, for the latest, greatest TV, movie news, and reviews.
We're having a blast with horror in July. It's been a really good year for horror, just thinking about all the movies that we've seen so far this year. Some decent horror this year. And I'm all for it. And, theatrical experiences too at that. So we have Long Legs coming out this weekend. So we're both really looking forward to that. It's got a lot of good buzz. And Nick Cage as the killer and Micah Monroe, Uncle Niall's favorite, as the star. So I can't wait for that. Man, can't wait to review that with you too. And thank you guys for watching our review of Maxine. And until the next Cinephellas movie review, I'm Uncle Henry Hill.
And I'm Uncle Logan Minx, signing out until the next movie review.
Cheers!